Such was the effrontery of imperialistic colonialism that, the moment the Pierre de Possession was placed on the soil of Mahé on November 1, 1756, by Captain Corneille Nicolas Morphy, 1729–1774, as a preemptive act of possession by France, the laws of the Compagnie des Andes became applicable to the as yet uninhabited islands. In 1770, when the first French settlement was established on Sainte-Anne, the small group of adventurous immigrants understood that they were under strict obligation to abide by the rules of the Code Noir. This was a decree passed by Louis XVI, 1643–1718, in 1685, to establish the conditions of slavery in the French colonial empire. It explicitly legitimized corporeal punishment and the death sentence for slaves who had absolutely no rights. This law, which consisted of 30 articles, was the corollary of a survey which Louis Jean-Baptiste Philogène de Malavoie, 1748–1825, ingénieur géographe, carried out in the Seychelles from November 1786 to April 1787, the primary purpose of which was to delineate habitations pertaining to land concessions, as well as devising a plan which ensured that every single space of land was used for a particular purpose, and thus avoid wastage. The draconian laws that Malavoie introduced curbed the reckless and destructive exploitation of the natural resources of Seychelles, which previously most of the settlers had practiced with impunity. The total population of the Seychelles at that time was about 160 inhabitants, including 125 slaves. On September 9, 1793, Jean-Baptiste Code de Quincy, 1748–1827, arrived in Seychelles to take up the post of commandant, and like his predecessors, he had the sole authority to adjudicate on civil and criminal offenses in conformity with the edicts of the Colonial Assembly of Île-de-France, Mauritius. On March 21, 1804, the year that Napoleon Bonaparte, 1769–1821, became Emperor of France, the French Civil Code came into force. This law, together with the Code of Civil Procedure in 1806 and the Commercial Code in 1807, was modified and adopted to the legal needs of the Mascarene Islands by the Captain General Charles Mathieu Isidore Descamps, 1769–1832, the Governor of Mauritius from 1803 to 1810. Thus it became known as Code de Caen. Of course, it is anybody's contention if even 10% of that massive document could be implemented in Seychelles, where slave labor provided the indispensable workforce on coconut and cotton plantations. The juxtaposition between the oppressive master and the submissive slave could have hardly been a remote consideration by the legislators of the Napoleonic Code, as the French Civil Code was often called. During the time of Code de Quincy, there was no court building per se. Thus, when he had to preside over judicial proceedings, de Quincy held court at his own dwelling house. To be continued.